Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining our weekly podcast. I'm Robin Lewis, founder and CEO of the Robin Report, which, by the way, is much more than just a daily report. We really believe it's a knowledge platform that benefits the industry. And the platform is, we communicate thought leadership on various strategic topics through our daily reports, yes, but also these podcasts. And we do webinars and hopefully in the future, live events. And along with our chief strategist, Shelley Kohan, also, by the way, is a professor at FIT and Syracuse University, we welcome you to our conversation on the topic of the electric slide. Now,
I love
that's
that topic.
provocative as heck, and we'll get to just what that means. So, Shelley, in this overstored, overstuffed, and now over websited retail industry, and by the way, it has been for decades, making it harder and harder to find growth and profitability. And I've called it share wars because it's the necessity to steal share of a market, which in total is growing very sluggishly at best. Well, today we are honored, and I mean that, to have a brilliant visionary. And that would be one of the Robin Report's regular contributors, Warren Shoulberg. And he's terrific. You've got to read his articles. He's even won some awards in the publishing world. Anyway, Warren brilliantly came up with an entirely new market for growth. First published on March 7th in the Robin Report. And today, Shelley and I wanted to include this incredible message and its creator and author in our podcast. So Warren, a big welcome to you. And I'm going to jump right in by reading your opening statement. You said, consider this, there are about to be 1.3 million opportunities that have never existed before for retailers, restaurants, and service providers. Those that jump on it first will reap the benefits. All you have to do is plug in. That's a great opening. Warren?
Thank you, Robin. This is all about electric vehicles. For a long time in most of our lifetimes, electric vehicles were kind of a Flash Gordon thing and a Jetsons thing. Right. None of us expected we'd ever see them in our lifetimes, but they're coming, and they're coming fast and furious, much quicker than I think any of us could have predicted. Last year, the EV market in the US was about 2% of vehicle sales. I guess that was 2 years ago. This past year, it jumped to 6%, wow. And globally, it's 10%. So the US is behind, but catching up. And you think about it, it's just growing exponentially. So it's an amazing change in one of the most fundamental parts of American society. And this is only going to accelerate, no pun intended, because virtually every manufacturer of vehicles, whether it's domestic or Asian or European, has said that they're going to convert largely to electric vehicles over the next 7 years by the end of the decade. So it's a big deal. And as we'll talk, I think it's a big deal for retail.
Well, Warren, most people, I think, would agree that it's going to just be a matter of time before the whole world goes all in on these electric vehicles. But I don't think we really have an awareness of like the numbers and the timelines that you so nicely laid out. So can you tell us what it is that retailers should exactly be acting on?
So obviously, I don't think retailers are going to start selling EVs out of their checkout aisles, but the real touch point for the retail community is the charging station. So you think about it. Right now, we have, I don't know how many, there's 145,000 conventional gas stations, and with about a million three gas pumps. So in the US, and but we've only got about 56,000 public charging stations. And so that's a real, again, no pun intended, disconnect between this burgeoning EV market and the charging stations that are going to be the infrastructure for all these vehicles. So, you've got the home charging stations, and people will have those, whether it's a sophisticated station or just a long extension cord. But for the most part, this is going to be an opportunity in the public domain for charging stations. So, and it's not just some idle projection that some research suit came up with as part of Biden administration legislation. They've created a projection that they're going to spend the money to build 500,000 charging stations.
Wow.
Year 2030, and that's already starting. Just this week, the federal government announced that they were releasing $2.3 billion of funding to start this over the next 5 years. So this is going to happen. Again, not some theoretical forecast. This is starting, it's going to happen, and the big question will be, where will those charging stations be? Your first inclination might be, okay, they're going to go in gas stations, in the Sunoco and Speedway station down the block. But this electronic vehicle charging processes are very different than fossil fuel charging. So, you pump gas into your car, you're in and out of there in 5 to 6 minutes, and you might check your email or look up at the sky, or maybe buy some Fritos in the convenience store, but you're out of there. EV charging times are anywhere between 15 minutes and an hour, depending upon the speed of the charging, what kind of vehicle you have, and what the charging station is. So this is a very different process. And so I think these EV charging stations are not going to be in gas stations. They're going to be in other places. And to me, that's the opportunity for retail.
Yeah, Warren, and now it's beginning to become very clear, knowing where you are going with this. So please continue.
Yeah. So before I get into some more details, Axios just published something, I don't know, a week or two ago, where one of their staffers did a road trip, I guess from the Northeast down to Florida. And they became, it was a great example of the psyche of the American consumer. They became obsessed, not at stopping at the latest tourist spot or figuring out where they were going to have lunch. They became obsessed with where they were going to stop next for charging. So, I think the average charge, lasts 180 or something like that miles. So this became the defining factor of that road trip. And we're going to see that, and we're going to see that consumers are going to focus their trips around where they're going to charge. And obviously, charging ranges are going to increase as the technology increases. But if you're doing a long distance trip, again, from the Northeast to someplace like Florida, you may stop 6, 8 times or more to charge. So that changes the whole dynamic of travel, and again, opens up amazing opportunities.
Oh my God, Warren, I 100% get it. I am so stressed out. I would be like crazy about the charge. It would totally ruin my trip. I'd be so focused on where's the next charging station. But just to put some perspective, so the average range, Warren, you're right, in an EV right now, or as of last year, is about 186 miles. So if you think about that, if you're going to make a trip that's longer than 186 miles, you're going to have to stop for a period of time to charge. And even by 2030, the range only is going to go up to 275 miles. So Robin, to put it in your perspective world, if you're driving from Florida, let's say the southernmost point of Florida, you can't even get out of the state of Florida in 280 miles. Maybe you get halfway through the state. So
Yeah, amazing.
you're going to have to find something to do on your trip back to New York when you do your, trips to and from Florida. And a lot of Northeasterns go down, a lot of New Yorkers go down to Florida will have the same problem. And just on the West Coast, it's 800 miles from San Diego to the northernmost point in California. So you'd probably have to recharge, 3 times over 12 hours. You have to break up the trip in 2 days. Then, oh, by the way, the hotel you're staying overnight at, you're going to have to make sure they have an EV charger. And you and I, Robin, Warren, I don't know if you do this, but Robin and I like to travel with our pets. So we bring our dogs with us when we travel.
Our cats don't like road trips now.
Well, my dog loves road trips, and Leia is about 53 pounds. So she's not like a little dog. So now I have to figure out, okay, what am I going to do with my pet while I'm charging for 30 minutes or 40 minutes? And you're right, Warren, that's, this whole travel thing is going to be, worrisome for a lot of consumers.
Which is why this is just an amazing opportunity for retailers and for, other type of retail businesses like restaurants and service places. And, where we started, that number, 1.3 million new charging stations are going to be built. When was the last time the retail industry had that kind of opportunity for that kind of expansion? I certainly not in my business lifetime. So the consumer's going to want to eat, going to want to do different things, and it just changes the dynamics of travel and I think the fundamentals of shopping, and it kind of redefines the definition of a pit stop. So this is really different.
Well, Warren, I love your redefining a pit stop. And, currently in the market, as you had mentioned, there's about 47,000 charging stations. But, California has 30% of those. So in fact, the next 3 cities aren't even close to what Cali has. Cali has 15,000 charging stations. New York and Florida have about 3,000, and Texas has just under 2,500. So if you think about it, going up and down the coast, the East Coast and the West Coast might be doable. But right now there's a dearth in the middle of the country. There's not enough charging stations. And you'd alluded to this earlier, Warren, but the US is way behind China in terms of EV chargers. China has 1.2 million public chargers, and 41% of those are fast charging. So the US has about 115,000 charging units, but only 19% are fast charging. So just to summarize that, we have slower chargers, and 50% of our chargers are in 3 states.
Shelley, but the growth is coming, and it is coming fast, as Warren mentioned earlier on. Hybrid and electric vehicle manufacturing in the U.S. is currently a $48 billion industry, with annual growth rate from 2018 through this year at 24%. Including a projected 17% rise in 2023 alone. And projections for the global electric vehicle supply equipment market, including EV chargers, is expanding to nearly $6 billion by 2024, and then by 2030 it will hit $22 billion. I mean, Biden's goal of having half of all new vehicles sold in the US by 2030 be zero emissions will also fuel this growth. Again, no pun intended. There has to be the infrastructure in place to support this initiative. The convenience, as Warren points out, is really key. We know that $900 million was given to 35 states to help with EV infrastructure, and is part of the $5 billion National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, acronym NEVI, that will be distributed over the next 5 years, all leading to the point of the golden opportunity for retail industry and to what Warren has so diligently outlined here. So Warren, why don't you take us through these possible new revenue streams?
Sure. Full disclosure, I've got a classic two-seater roadster and gasoline powered. And so this is, you're going to have to count me out of this mix. But for a lot of other folks, this is definitely a game changer. So in the article that I did for the Robin Report, I kind of mentioned about half a dozen types of retail businesses that I thought were the most likely to take advantage of that. And germane to our audience, number one would just be general retailing. And so, if folks are going to have, let's say, an average of 45 minutes while they're waiting for their vehicle to recharge, they're going to want to shop. People love it. And so whether it's a dollar store, it's a sporting goods store, it's a little market by Macy's, it's a Walmart, a supermarket. Whatever it is, I think this is where people are going to spend their time. You say, okay, well, maybe, a lot of gas stations have convenience stores, but you can't spend 45 minutes shopping for Slurpees and bars. It just doesn't work that way. You're going to want to do something more substantive. So, there's 34,000 dollar stores in the US right now. And in my mind, dollar stores will be the biggest beneficiaries of this if they start to do it. They've got the parking lots, they've got the space, and stores just the right size for 45 minutes. Now, you're probably still going to get a lot of salty snacks you shouldn't be buying, but still, you're going to pick up laundry detergent and maybe some new socks and underwear. So great opportunity, and you've got a captive audience. So I just think that's fascinating.
I think, it's really interesting when you talk about it, because many of us would actually love just to knock out our shopping list while we're waiting for our EV to charge. What's interesting, though, Warren, is when I looked at the data, most charging stations are at hotels and car dealers. Yep. Shopping malls was way down on the list. And quite frankly, grocery stores weren't even in the top 10. So spot on, great opportunity, possible revenue stream. What other areas?
So the next obvious one, and I think it's going to be every bit as compelling as just general merchandise retailing, is restaurants. And these fast food guys are already on the interstate interchanges, and they've got the parking lots. You can eat a Big Mac and fries in 30 minutes. You can eat them in 3 minutes if you're desperate, but you could be civilized and take your time. And we're already starting to see those guys slowly get on it. Subway just announced, a week or two ago, a test where they're going to start putting, I think they call them Subway Oasis, and they're going to start putting charging pumps or stations in their parking lots. And to me, this makes so much sense because geographically they're already there. You know, you're not talking about building a new building. They've got the parking lots. They're the time somebody spends in a fast food place is concurrent with the amount of time it takes to charge a vehicle. So they're great, but you know, who's to say this shouldn't extend to Chili's and to other family restaurant kind of places? Because again, they've got the structure already in place to do this, so makes a lot of sense. You've also got convenience stores, and again, most of us probably don't spend 30 to 45 minutes in a 7-Eleven, but they're there and they've got the physical setup to deal with this, and they've just got the space. And you know, I think what we say, I think Shelley, you dug out some numbers that the vast majority of fossil fueling stations are connected to a convenience store. So again, they've got it, they understand it, and these guys make sense. And if they jump on it, you know, right now most people don't eat inside one of these places, but who's to say that some of these Quick Trip and Speedway guys that have these huge setups, you know, Buc-ee's down south, that they don't put dining spaces inside. And pepperoni pizza and a Diet Dr. Pepper, yeah, that's about 35 minutes. So makes sense. Couple other types of businesses that could jump on this. Video and gaming arcades. 30 to 45 minutes of you know, a fortnight is nothing. So you know, you could see that doing it's a restricted demographic, and some of us age challenged people are probably not going to do that, but for that demographic it makes a lot of sense. So you could see these video and gaming arcades doing this. More likely is gambling casinos. Now you've got
Oh, that's interesting.
what is it, 3/4 of the states in the country now, or half the states have legalized gambling. This would appeal more to an older demographic that probably is got the money to buy an EV. And you know, I don't think you need to be Steve Wynn to figure out that this is a great opportunity. You know, I think the challenge will be that if you're charging your vehicle, you got to pay up front so that you don't blow it all on the slots and you know, not have anything to pay left to pay. But makes sense. And in this case, you know, your businesses don't have to have any added labor costs because that customer's already there. So those are kind of interesting, and who's to say, you know, it couldn't be a casino next to a gaming place, and you know, kind of fun for the whole family. So and then finally, I think the other opportunity is in the service area. So nail salons, you know, stop in for a quick blowout, a blowout of your hair, not of your tire, spa services, you know, but all those kind of service things, you know, I think, Shelley, you would probably know more than Robin and I how long it takes to get your nails done, but I don't know, 30, 45 minutes is about right. So
just under an hour, Warren, you're right.
Yep. So spa services, I mean, all that kind of stuff. You know, I think that is better for more localized as opposed to on the interstate. But it makes a lot of sense, and joke about this being more for Shelley than for Robin and I, but us men are getting more interested in our in pampering and self-improvement. So
Pedicures and massages.
definitely the case. Definitely the case. So that whole beauty and personal care sector could be jumping on this. So those are the most obvious ones. But if you're just drive down any retail strip in America, and I bet you'll find another 24 businesses that could accommodate EV charging stations. And again, it's just this blue sky kind of an opportunity. And there may be guys that we don't know about, that aren't in business yet, that are going to jump on this. But amazing opportunity for the retail sector in this whole thing.
Yeah, Warren, as I've said, brilliant. And, we could look back on what we just talked about and say, well, my God, that's common sense. But as I have said many times, common sense is often brilliant, right? And I think this is. I haven't read or heard anybody else really focusing on this space. And you're right. This can be a whole new revenue stream. Can be instead of trying to steal a share of a struggling pie, this is a wide open opportunity if people get on it. And maybe there is a few retailers out there that have already seen this opportunity, but if there are not many, or we would have heard about it. The big question, though, as always, is when they do understand it as an opportunity, who among them will take swift action in taking advantage of this enormous opportunity. And Warren, thank you so much again for joining us. And do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, you use the word common sense and retailer in the same sentence, so I don't know if that's it's a bit of a stretch, but
I love that, Warren.
Excuse me to my friends in the retailing business. I just being a little silly here, but whoever gets there first is gonna take stake on this, and is going to establish the habit of consumers. Oh yeah, that's where I go and get my my Tesla or my Volkswagen or a million other brands. That's where I go get a charge. So whoever jumps on this fast, right now it's a small business, but it's going to get bigger.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing where you want to be a leader and not a follower in jumping on this, and to get the consumer to say, okay, that's the place I go, and establish the habit. So great opportunity in the next 18 to 24 months.
Oh my God, Warren, I totally agree with you. I think definitely there's going to be a first mover advantage for sure. And as we know, as global warming continues to be an issue for consumers, the EV and hybrid markets really are going to continue to face these strong tailwinds. But the industry, the EV industry, that is, they have to figure out how to make a better profit. They're kind of, the profit margins are super thin, so they got to figure that out. I'm sure they will. Always a pleasure, Warren, spending time with you. Thank you so much for being with us today. For our listeners, you can find more of our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and of course, therobinreport.com. And look for us on YouTube, where we broadcast our podcast as well. And make sure to follow us on social media, link in with us for the latest thoughts about the industry.
And I want to thank everybody again, and especially Warren. And if any of our listeners or viewers have some concepts or some strategies or whatever they would love Shelley and I to cover, just send me an email. And it is robin@therobinreport.com. And you can email me about anything if you want.
Anything, Robin?